Welcome to Money Convos, where we discuss personal finance and investment tips. We're committed to helping people create wealth and achieve financial freedom. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Clubhouse, and Facebook, and subscribe to our YouTube and podcast. All right then, let's head into today's conversation.
Hello, Dennis. How you doing?
Hi, Alekem. I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good. Good. Right now, dear, I'm seeing your Twitter thing, and right now you're a ninja. Hey. This matter. Ayo, okay. Only you know why ninja, or do you mind sharing with our audience why it is a ninja icon or it's personal? That one too is
I don't know. I think I'm just trying something new. But no particular reason.
Hey, okay. And you didn't see anything else. You didn't see angels. I feel like an African thing. You didn't see angels. You saw ninja.
Okay, angel will give off some feminine vibes. So you don't choose the ninja.
Have you ever seen a female angel? Where in the Bible do they talk about female angels?
But you see, the profiles that have angels as their names, most of them are women on Twitter.
Let me give a comment to myself. That's interesting. Okay, all right, that's cool. Speaking of angels, Bishop, how are you doing?
I'm good.
Wonderful. That's good. That's good. Happy Independence Day to both of you and to all our audience.
Thank you.
Yeah. I was texting with a friend in the UK just a few hours ago, and she's also in school, and she's like, oh, she's not going to school today. And I'm like, hey, no classes today. Saying, why? Is it because you people are also celebrating Ghana independence? And she was like, for the way. I'm like, okay. Then it's morning the independence. That's interesting. But anyway, it's. I remember when we were young, we used to get 2 days of holidays for school children. For adults, is it 2 days of holidays or just one?
Please, we are resuming work tomorrow. I beg you.
Imagine this. Shout out to a friend of mine. Yesterday, she was eating some serious jollof. She said it's independence jollof. But she garnished the thing with some accoutrement. And I saw beans on the side. I'm just curious. So, whoever eats jollof with beans, not plenty, but just on the side.
On the side.
You know the way you can put salad on the side. You know you can put some garnishings on the side.
Wow, this is different.
I'm telling you. But anyway, maybe she went to learn that in Tadi. I don't know, but well, not Tadi people catching shots. Anyway, let's get it on today with today's conversation. Just as we are talking about independence and freedom, it's just interesting. A big coincidence that the title for today's conversation is A Mortgage Prisoner's Story. Someone is in a serious position where they have they have no freedom. And I think Dennis has added the link to this article in the reply to the thread for this space. So if you want to read it, you can go find it there. It's an article by the FT Advisor, that's Financial Times. And I think Mortgage Prisoners must be a series of articles that they write about people and their mortgage issues. And the title, a fair warning, it talks about suicide and mental health. So fair warning to anyone listening. And the title says, I have been suicidal and can't see a way forward. I'll lay out the facts, but before I get there, I just want to say it's this article, when I read it, the theme that hit me is risk. And so we will be talking about risk in this conversation. And you plan your life in a certain way. You think everything is good. You are trying to chase after your dreams. Most people want to own a home. It's a dream most of us have. So you are pursuing it, but your dream ends up becoming a nightmare. and sometimes through factors that are of your own doing, and sometimes it's factors beyond your control. Things just go sideways, and you don't have much of a say in it. So without much ado, I'll just lay out the facts and then we get into a discussion. For anyone who hasn't read the article, the facts, at least laying it out, would help. All right. So this is based in England. The protagonist is Joanne, and she has, I think it's 2 or 3 kids. I'm not sure, but it just says she has boys who are now in their teens. So more than 1 child, at least 2. All right. So in 2016, she bought a 3-bedroom house for £186,000. She put a 7% down payment, and so the loan was, was £10,000, and the loan was £173,000. The next year, she borrowed another £10,000 to make home improvements. Her interest rate on that mortgage was 4.15%. Her husband became unemployed in 2008, and they could not have accessed financial support for 6 months. So the problems began. They tried to negotiate with the bank, and they got reduced payments, and they even felt so that they don't have to make the full mortgage payment every month. But then they even, in addition to that, they got a 6 months interest-free period. So even though they weren't able to pay, the interest wasn't accruing on the mortgage. When you borrow money, you have to pay interest on it. So they managed to get a 6 months period of no interest being accrued on the loan. However, in that 6 months interest-free period, the bank that had given her the loan, that's Northern Rock, they failed and they became nationalized. For Ghana, it's similar to what happened to UT Bank and Capital Bank some years ago. Must have been 2018. Wow, that feels so long ago. Yeah. Anyway, just a quick mic check. Is everyone following the story? Dennis, are you with me?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, cool. All right. So, you know what they say, when it rains, it pours. So she was going through her own financial challenges, and now the bank also fails. And now she's trying to refinance the mortgage, but she can't get to refinance it because this is still back in 2008, because her credit history is bad. They've not been making the full payments. They've missed some payments. And then the husband is also unemployed. Now, they didn't mention if she herself is employed or not. However, they did say that she was receiving some benefits from the state, and I'll get into that in a bit. Right. And so, with that kind of financial situation, they don't want to refinance. Refinancing is like, okay, you have a mortgage, but you want to change up the terms or go to someone else, to a different bank, for them to give you a loan so that you go and pay off the old loan, and now you owe the new loan. So it's like changing your car or changing your dress or something like that. But it's like them issuing a new loan. They need to make sure that you are credit worthy. But she's not in a position for that. And then eventually the mortgage was sold from the bank that she originally had it with. It went to a different bank. And she says since then, her mortgage payments have been increasing every month. Right now, her mortgage payments are about £1,335. So let's just say £1,300, and that is 500 more than she can budget for. All right. Recently, she was able to change the loan terms, and now she's on a loan for 192,000 at 8.75%. At this point, she owes more than she borrowed. As of 2024, her current balance on the loan is about £201,000, and she has 7 years, 7 months to go before the loan term ends. At this point, she's still receiving government benefits, so she can't afford the mortgage. So that's her predicament. When it rained, it poured. Things got more and more complicated. When she was eventually able to refinance or get some restructuring to the loan, it ended up becoming a bigger amount that she owed. She originally borrowed 183,000, and now got to a point it went up to 192,000, and then as of now the balance is 201,000. And that's, you'd ask, well, why is the amount going up? If you miss your payments, the interest will compound. They will add it as if, well, you still owe us this amount, and you have to pay the interest on interest. So that's the implication of that. So yeah, in a nutshell, just laying out the facts. That's the story of Joanne, a mortgage prisoner. Guys, any initial reactions? This is a really sad story. Any initial reactions before we get into it? Actually, no. Wait, before you give your initial reactions, let me add some more information from the article. How it's impacting her, how this whole situation is impacting her. She feels suicidal. She's scared. She's feeling a lot of anxiety. This financial stress and the challenges of the mortgage even led to her divorce from her husband along the way. Her young boys regularly miss meals and they can't afford to make healthy choices. They rarely ever go anywhere. She can't even afford hobbies for them, whether it's football training or it's taking class trips. And so her life has just become very sad and difficult for her. Any thoughts? Eden, do you want to go first?
Yeah, Ellie Kim. I think when I also read the article, my initial reaction was a bit of to feel some sadness and some pity for this lady, because it is not a situation you would wish to be in at all, because being choked on your mortgage, it's something. But like you said, the story does not bring a lot, some background that would have loved to also have, like whether she's currently working and why she's unable to rake in as much income as possible. What is really the challenge? And even if we had some background information as to even what went into how she chose the house and whether the house, the value is, or the amount was just too much for what she was earning. I mean, if we had those little things, we could have made a much more informed discussion. But at least with what we have, we still can be able to discuss it and move forward with it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. I observed those gaps in the information that we were given, and yeah, we wouldn't wish this on anyone. We didn't wish it on our loved ones. You'd be a very bad person to even wish it on people you don't like. A very tough situation. Dennis, how about you? Any thoughts? You've read this article a bunch of times. You brought it to our notice, and it was a very good choice. It's gonna give us a whole lot of things to learn from. But what were you thinking when you read it?
For me, I think she was just unlucky. You take a look at the time, they probably were in a very good situation when they took the mortgage loan and even accepted an offer to take the additional loan, as you said. But the 2008 financial crisis really hit them hard. Her husband maybe was working in the financial industry, so that's why he lost his job. So I think she was just unlucky with the timing, and it brings to bear the reality of some of these situations. You can plan out things, just like you said. You can plan out things the way you want them, but you never know what's going to happen tomorrow. And sometimes that's why we preach having emergency funds to cover some of these things. But these are some of the things people are facing, the reality people are facing, and I think she was just unlucky in her situation.
That's true. You've raised a lot of points that we'll be getting into. the concept of luck, emergency funds. Yeah, and these are things that we'll get into in a moment. So, yeah, looking forward to having that conversation. But yeah, shout outs to people in our audience. I see Courage in the audience, main economic correspondent. In fact, it's been a while since we brought Courage up here, but we need to bring him up one of these days. So then let's see how we can tap into Courage's wealth of knowledge one of these coming weeks. Also, shout outs to Ali Seidu Fawaz. Oh, I see you here almost every week. So shout outs to you. We appreciate the support. Okay, so let's get into it. If you just tuned in, we are talking about someone who took a mortgage in 2006 and life happened, things happened, and it's become a horror story. What was supposed to be a dream, owning a home, has become a nightmare. She can't afford to pay the monthly mortgage payments. She can't afford to um in fact, actually, what happened also was she had to refinance it, and now she owes way more than she borrowed. Missed many payments. It's affecting her mental health. It's affecting the quality of her life and her kids' lives. So yeah, we're gonna get into a discussion. It's a very sad thing, and we wouldn't wish it on anyone. But there's this Akan saying. It translates to, when I see my neighbor's beard on fire, I'll go and get a bucket of water to put it under my beard. How do we learn lessons in life? We can be told early on that don't do this, don't do that. But also, when we see it happening to other people, we need to prepare ourselves for these kind of situations. I like this particular conversation at this time because it ties into something we were talking about last week. I'm not going to go on a rant like I did last week. But where one of the points that Ramit Sethi was disagreeing with Dave Ramsey was saying that Dave Ramsey is said that people should spend 28%, which actually he says 25%, maximum 20. So let me go with actually what Dave Ramsey said. So just a bit of background. Last week, if you missed that conversation, the conversation was about discerning whose advice you should listen to. And we took a case study of Ramit Sethi, someone we respect in the personal finance space, who we've been watching his show on Netflix, How to Get Rich. He had a problem with certain people who speak on personal finance and says you shouldn't listen to the advice. One of those people is Dave Ramsey, who is all about getting out of debt, right? One of the bones that Ramit had with Dave was that he says you should not, Dave says you should not spend more than 25% of your income, of your gross income, on your housing costs. Now, housing costs, it could be about rent, it could be about your cost of owning a home, that include your mortgage, your property taxes, maintenance, blah, blah, blah. All right. And Ramit says it's too conservative. At that rate, a lot of people won't own homes. But guess what? I did the math in that conversation. I did some math, what is affordable and what's not affordable. I encourage you to go listen to that conversation if you can. It's wherever you listen to podcasts. It's on YouTube. Go listen to it. Tell a friend to listen to it. But relating it to this example, this is a clear case of it's better to be conservative because things would happen. And it's good then you drew out the connection of 2008 to the financial crisis that happened in 2008. Even if the person wasn't working in the financial service sector, a lot of people lost many jobs in many other sectors, including real estate. We all know what happened to real estate. In fact, the crisis was due to real estate. And then in Europe, it translated to be a credit crunch. So many industries could not get funding to do their business. Many people had to be laid off. It was a storm. Okay. But that's it. What does it tell you? Risk happens, things happen, situations will happen beyond your control. The question is, as you are living your life, are you living it conservatively or you are living it in a risk-seeking way? Are you living it in a way that will make you resilient, or you are just living it the normal way everyone is living it, and then if something happens, you pray that God will take you through it, or you just, because there's God, nothing will happen. So the key word for us here is risk. And I want us to understand what risk is. Investopedia explains risk as, in financial terms, is there's chance that an outcome or investment's actual gains will differ from an expected outcome or return. That's on an investing side. In another way, I would generalize it to say risk is when is the possibility that what you plan won't happen. It could be positive, it could be negative. Maybe you are planning that you get 10,000. In the end, you get 20,000. There's risk. It's a positive surprise. You're happy. Good. Everyone goes home. No one complains. But if you're expecting 10,000 and you got zero, well, that's a possibility. It can happen that you get nothing. Or you invest 10,000 and you lose all your 10,000. It's not that you didn't even get any profit. You lose your money. So instead of getting your money back, you get zero back. It's like the people who had invested in UT Bank, which was listed on the Ghana Stock Exchange some years back. I don't think anyone has gotten any money back from their listed UT shares. Anyway, so risk. We quite often we don't appreciate risk, and we try to talk about risk on Money Convos to make people appreciate that it's nice to have good plans, but things could happen. In her case, in Joanne's case, when risk happened, now interest rates have gone up. She originally got a loan at 4.18%. When she had to refinance later, 8.75. Interest rates have doubled. And in the early stages of a mortgage, most of the money you pay goes to pay off interest. So that just tells you the implication. Yeah, her monthly mortgage will go up significantly. All right. If you are not able to make payments, they'll give you notices. And then if you don't pay up on time, they can even foreclose, say that, you know what, give us all our money. If you can't give us all our money, then we are going to sell your house and we take our money and we give you what's left. If you are in a situation where the housing market or the real estate market is not doing well, then they sell it at a loss. They take their loss and then you walk away with nothing, and you still have to get a roof over your head, you know. So, and Joanne is actually considering just giving their house up because she can't afford it. And if you even try to refinance it, interest rates have gone up. You've been in a cycle of bad payments. So who's going to trust you to give you money? No one. So when it rains, it pours. And some people even try to get, with the refinancing, they want to get a longer term loan to stretch it out, because as I explained last week, the longer you stretch out your mortgage, the smaller your monthly payments will be. But on the back end, it just means you are keeping somebody's money for longer. You'll be paying interest for longer. And as you pay interest longer, that means you are paying more interest. And that just means money that could be staying with you leaks out to other people. So these are some of the financial fallouts of this risk event. So let's get to a discussion, right? Dennis, let's push on this thing that you are saying, that about her being unlucky. Do you really believe, or I think yes, there's a certain level of unluckiness. However, I want to juxtapose bad luck with resilience. What do you think?
I think I do believe in luck. I believe things can happen along the way in your life, which can be good for you, which can be bad for you. And when it comes to resilience, I think it's subjective. It depends on, I mean, do I have enough information to push through? It depends on the person's training. Has the person even experienced a thing before? Assuming Joanne experienced an event just like the crisis in 2008 before, and before the 2008 happened, then it would be easier for her to be resilient in that regard. But an event like that hadn't happened in a while, and nobody expected the fallout of what will happen. So when it comes to resilience, I think it's subjective. It depends on the individual, and I mean, it also depends on the event as a whole, how it impacts you, and how the people around you even support you as well.
Okay. So that's one angle to the resilience. And maybe let me throw another word in there to make it more interesting. Preparedness, or being conservative. And let me explain. Let's say what happened to Joanne has happened. All right. It's sad. At the time, she made her decisions based on what she knew, right? But guess what? We are sitting here and we can look forward. How are we going to make our decisions? And I'd like to again bring back the conversation that we had last week, where someone is advocating that when you are thinking about owning a home or even renting, your cost of home ownership, your cost of accommodation, your cost of renting, all those kind of costs in your budget, it should be just 25% or less than your gross monthly income. And the reason they would say so is to be conservative. The difference let's say you have 10,000, you make 10,000 cedis a month and you want to get a mortgage. When they are looking at what kind of house you can afford, if you want to follow this strict thing, you say, okay, what kind of house can I afford that I'll based on me paying just 2,500 cedis a month, or even if it's rent. And then you go and you look at a house like that. You look at another house, and that one, it will require you to pay, let's say, 4,000 cedis a month. That's 40% of your take-home pay. Then you say that, well, I can still afford 4,000. It's not bad. And then something that people say is, oh, after all, in fact, this is a mortgage. It's long term, maybe 15 years. After all, my income will increase and it will no more be 40%. It will go lower to 35, 30, 20% over time. So don't worry, I can afford the 40%. Now we all know that the kind of house you can buy, or even if it's rent, keep it simple. The kind of place you rent for 2,500 or 2,500 is nowhere near the appeal of the kind of place that you rent for 4,000 cedis. Or them, would they be the same? You are into real estate.
Obviously, no. A 4,000.
Mm.
I mean, a 2,500. That's almost. I mean, they are two wells up, unless, of course, some work Accra pricing that you go and get something in here. But under normal circumstance, the two would have different kinds of finishing. In fact, even the area, the location will play a very big factor. Yeah.
Exactly. So the whole package will be less appealing. But you say you want to live a little above that 25%, so you want something bigger. It's all I'll give you another analogy. You remember when we were young, there was this, is there a fable or something? The three little piglets. They built their houses with different kind of equipment or different materials, and then the wolf came and blew it all away. Suggesting that people be more conservative when making these purchase decisions or these mortgage decisions, or even in their budgets, and being more conservative means that your house will stand when things happen. When bad things happen, you will be more resilient because you have a stronger foundation. I think that's where I'm trying to get to with this. It's true you can be unlucky. And yes, they could have been unlucky in the sense that the husband will lose his job, but the mortgage will still be something that with side hustles he can afford to pay. But when you increase your cost so much to a point that it becomes unsustainable and any small yawa happen, it's true there was some bad luck, but it gets to a point where sometimes you have to look in the mirror. All right. So I encourage everyone in our audience, like, as we are making decisions, let's be a bit conservative. Let's appreciate risk that something could go wrong. We could ask ourselves this question: what could go wrong? And then when we start answering that question, well, what could go wrong? And then we start putting provisions in there. It may just mean we may have to relax our appetites, go for something smaller for now, and maybe sometime later we can change it. So I know some people may be thinking about buying a car. And now car prices are expensive. You manage the way Adam has been managing his nice, cute car, rather than going to look for some Corolla or Camry to buy, even though it's more durable, yes. Or some flashy car, no. Rather take something small, some Brabo chassis, because who knows what will happen. The economy can go sideways, right? Yeah. Another point I want to mention before I take some more views is this concept of margin. What are some of the benefits of being conservative when you draw your budget? And then it's this next week that we'll be talking about budgets, right? Yeah, I think we have budgets planned for next week. So tune back in next week to hear our conversation about back to basics about budgeting, right? When you are conservative, you allow yourself wiggle room. You allow yourself a chance to move around. You know, if you draw your budget, you know how much you earn. If it's 5,000, and then you do a tight, you can do a tight budget and make sure that you are spending all the money, sometimes with nothing to even invest. That way, when prices go up a little, you have no room to operate. no room to maneuver. When inflation is higher, you complain and prices are going up. However, somebody else could be on the same level of income, but their expenses are lower. Instead of Heineken, they are drinking club. They don't do luxury things. They do lower price things. They focus on what do they really need. That way, when hardship comes, they still have some excess. If they were able to save, if because they planned properly, they were able to save maybe 30-40% of their income. Now, because prices have gone up, they will only be able to save 20%, leaving the other 20% to spread across increase in cost of their needs. However, if you left yourself with no room, no money to save out of your budget, and prices go up, what do? You go and borrow from other people to cover your expenses. And that cycle never ends, right? So it's about giving yourself some margin. Live conservatively so that you can give yourself some room to operate. Of course, every now and then splurge, but plan for it. Like a few weeks ago, last month, we spoke about Val's Day and giving. It's all about planning. You know, if you are dating someone or you're in a relationship, you know that the person will have a birthday. They were born someday, unless it was 29th February. Even that one, every 4 years it will come. Every 4 years it will come. So what do? You plan for it. You don't just let it spring up as a surprise to you. So it's all about planning. Enjoy life, yes, but let it fall within your budget. Anyway, let me take a breather. Let me ask Edem, I'm curious what your take is on what I've said about budgeting. Some people may have different perspectives about how they live. Some people say they want to enjoy life. Some people too, if you listen to Dave Ramsey, he will preach peace. What do you have to, or what do you think about this concept of peace versus pleasure or risk seeking when it comes to how people spend their money?
Yeah, Elikem, obviously I told towards the line of peace. I like peace of mind a lot. So I told towards that line, and I always advocate for situations where, like, you don't, as much as possible, if you can avoid a bad situation, do as much your possible best to avoid it, and the stories with mortgages in particular, it's a lot. There are a lot of them, and even it's actually the costs. I mean, the cause of these subprime mortgage issues and things that led to the financial crisis and all of that, because people actually don't think critically sometimes through the decision process of home ownership. I think last week we delved in the previous weeks or so, we delved deeper into some of the costs that come with home ownership that normally people don't even think about it. So I think I told towards the side of having enough margin in your budget so that this one item, which we know it's quite a big ticket item, should not crowd out all your finances. That's why, even banks, when they are giving loans to people, they want to ensure that even your repayment, whatever loan it is, a personal loan or whatever, your repayment is not going to crowd out a certain percentage of your income. Why is that? Because once that happens, your chances of default goes higher and higher. And once you default, it means that they are also affected. So we ourselves as individuals, if we are taking these decisions, what is the margin? That's why I said that I would have loved to have that information in the article, which made us aware that, maybe she was earning X amount of money per month or per year. Then that would have helped us to go to see whether probably the house she went for was more expensive than what she could afford. Or even sometimes you start out being able to afford something, but you are just on the line, so you don't have any buffers. And if things go south, then you are in trouble. Okay, and we also don't know why, when her husband lost his job, he could not get back on his feet again, or I don't know. There are some, I know I've binge listened to Dave Ramsey a lot over the past few weeks. So I've seen a lot of some of these situations where people have lost their jobs. And he tells people that, look, if it means going to wait tables, if it means going to sell something here, being a salesman, just make sure you get the income in, because that is the starting point. Once the income is not coming in, you have this thing choking you. and then the peace that you are supposed to have, you are not able to have it, and then you find yourself. That's why this particular one says a mortgage business story. It's you find yourself in like a prison, and you just want to get out, but you just don't know how to get out. So, and I feel probably I don't know who are the kinds of advisors or financial advisors maybe she saw earlier on when the problem started to rear its head, because it looks like very early in the story, you see that they face challenge. That was just about 2 years into the mortgage when the husband lost the job. That was the moment where the dynamics changed. So maybe it made sense 2 years earlier, but afterwards it will not make sense again. So what was the decision? Maybe probably at that time they could have gotten rid of the house and got something else or something. I don't know. But we don't have all that information to be able to maybe pass some kind of judgment or pass a kind of verdict to say, oh, maybe she did well or she did not do well. So these are the things that ran through my mind as I read through the article. Yeah,
those are very good points that and it's, even though we don't have that information, it gets us thinking. I like this point that you mentioned about get a job. Like when you're out of income, you get a job. While you're waiting to find their dream job, their ideal job, get a job. I appreciate that, in our context, like with most of our audience who are in Ghana, the economy is hard and people don't really have jobs. But it's all about still trying to find some solutions, trying to see what can you sell, what service can you render somebody, something small, just, you also mentioned like downgrading, if that's an option. Like, can you go live with family? Just go live with some family, sell the house. If there's any equity, you even get that to tide you over, But there was another issue that you mentioned which got me thinking of when people are feeling helpless, and it makes us think, we don't have control over anything, because the story that we read, and I understand from a journalistic point of view, it's about getting sympathy out of the person, getting sympathy for the story. In fact, her story, apparently, it had come up in the House of Lords, I think, or is the House of Commons? That's the equivalent of the UK Parliament. And it had come up, but not enough. In fact, when it happened, the banks were actually willing to support. They reduced her payments for a while. They gave her a period of not paying the interest for a while. Even recently, the current bank that owns, they are willing to sit down and talk to see how they can handle it. But the thing is, you owe what you owe, and you have to pay it. So people will be willing to help, but there's only so far the help will go. Ultimately, we are responsible for our own situations. We can't wait for the government to pay off our debts or somebody to come and rescue us. If we plan our lives such that we are self-sufficient, it will make us more resilient when things happen. Again, another point to help advocates for being a bit more conservative, seeking peace over pleasure, delaying gratification, by just being a bit moderate in how we handle things. Adam, you want to add another point?
Yeah, Elikem, it just got me thinking that, listening to Dave Ramsey's shows and a number of similar issues that people raise when they call in and all that. There are some people, when these issues come up, he tells them the problem they have is not even a money problem. There's a deeper problem than a money problem. So when you started mentioning the fact that her matter went to the House of Commons or Lords, and then some of the financial institutions tried to sit her down and everything. Yeah, I think it just sent my mind going to the fact that probably they were trying to treat symptoms instead of the real problem. What exactly is the reason why she was late on some of her mortgage payments, or she was not able to match up the full thing? Is it that she was not making enough of an income? If that was the problem, then no matter what people were doing, she will still not be able to pay because she's not making enough. So probably that is where, and it's not making enough. Is it because maybe at the point in time when they picked the mortgage, her husband was working, so most of the amount of money was shifted to his side, and now that he was not working, um, she has to bear the brunt alone. So, all these kinds of questions come up for you to realize maybe there are some bigger issues that could have been sorted out, because no matter the help people will give, once the fundamental issue has not been fixed, you will just be going around in circles, because look, even if they give her 40 years or 50 years to pay, she would not be able to pay. Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. Sometimes there are fundamental problems in there. You could help people, but sometimes they're not willing to help themselves. And I'm not saying we are not saying that's the issue with him. There's so much we don't know. But I'm sure we can all on our own relate to some people that maybe some family or friends, they have a problem. You are suggesting solutions to them. No, this won't work. No, I can't do this. No, this, no, that. Then you get to a point, you just have to throw your hands up in the air and say, you know what? I've just given you facts. I've just given you some options. I'm gonna walk away. Like, if you need support, I'm here. But you are someone trying to help the next person. There's only so much you can do. I think someone used to say this. Was my father used to say this? The sympathizer who wept more than the bereaved. I give an example. In traffic in Ghana, some people who are pushing the wheelchair for the beggars, this guy this person really, really can go and lift some concrete, can lift some cement blocks to make money to come and feed this person. Adam, have you been seeing those people? Maybe you can offer them some job on your sites.
A number of them, Charlie.
I remember some time back, there was a guy in the Ridge area, National Theatre traffic light. In fact, when he's pulling up to my car window, I'm afraid, because the guy, he's thick. Like, I'm even afraid that is he on drugs such that if I don't give him money, will he break my glass or something? I was like, nah, bruv, you can't be. And that guy, he just comes and he's not even using like the water and those kind of soap solutions to try. No, he's just coming and he's dusting the car. Of course, the way he was moving, I'm sure there was some mental health issues in there. But sometimes you're trying to help people and they really don't want to be helped. These may be some extreme situations that we're having, but at this point, let's encourage each other. When we have problems, let's get past the point of the emotion of feeling helpless. Mourn for a bit, grieve for your situation. It's bad, yes, but there needs to get to a point where it's no more about complaining, but what can I do? What can you do? And then for us that we've not gotten into this kind of situation, this is an opportunity for us to avoid it happening to us. Let's take a cue from the three little piglets who built their houses. One with, was it straw? Another with, I've forgotten the other one. But the one with bricks, when the wolf came to blow, the house didn't blow over. Before we get into, summary lessons that we pick up from this particular topic, Dennis, you said something earlier, which I think we need to get into some more. You mentioned the benefit of a benefit that a 6-month emergency fund or an emergency fund, any size of emergency fund could have played in here. Can you tell us, like, what is an emergency fund and how could it have helped her situation, at least in the beginning? It's been going on for years, but at least in the beginning.
So an emergency fund basically is money that is set aside for rainy days, so for unexpected activities or things that may happen in the future. And we often advise that to start, you should have at least your 6 months of your income, the money you earn, as your emergency fund, just to take care of such events when they happen. In Joanne's case, we have no idea of how much she was earning. We could have estimated maybe how much she could have had in the emergency fund to support her situation. But an emergency fund in her case, when you read the article, would have helped her a great deal, because when you look at the response from the financial providers that Heliodor, they have a level of detail that Joanne and then her husband wrote to them to stop paying their principal and pay only their interest from 2008, and that was one of the causes of their problems. So, assuming they had an emergency fund, they could have paid off a significant portion of their mortgage, and this whole problem wouldn't have had a ripple effect towards the situation she has now. So that's basically what an emergency fund is and how it could have helped Joanne in her case.
Wonderful. Thanks for sharing that that piece of information. In fact, if anyone is listening and you don't have an emergency fund, I encourage you to get one. Start off with saving up 3 months of emergency fund, then target 6 months. What do we mean by how much is that amount? Take your expenses for every month, multiply it by 3. That's how much you want to get in in your emergency fund. Start saving small every month. And in fact, if you need help knowing what exact amounts you need to, first follow us to make sure that you come back and listen to the budget conversation next week. And for more hands-on, get to Instagram, follow at investment_friend. So investment friend, they can help you look at your individual situation to know what you need to do. Even further on that, I know we have a savings challenge that we do at Investment Friend. And for this right now, the window has closed for now, but there may be an opening in Adam is in July, right? Applications will be due in
June, and then it will start off in July.
So we'll be taking applications for that in June and also in December. So it's you can join twice a year. But even if you feel like that's too late, in fact, I think that's too late. For now, definitely, you see Savram in the audience, tap on her icon, follow her if you don't want to go all the way to Instagram. Send her a DM right now. Get on the plan. See how you can be helped to get to that emergency fund. Because what could have helped in that emergency fund is a husband loses his job, assuming she also has some financial challenges. You tap into that reservoir and you can live the next 6 months without stressing out too much, and then use that as a safety net from which you can have some peace of mind to help you look for your next job. Sometimes you don't even have peace of mind because you are stressed out about the next bill. But if you were free, you would think, oh, okay, I can go and do this side hustle, I can go and do that side hustle. I'm sure we all know somebody that we are trying to talk to them, but because they are too stressed out, their tired brain can't process the information we are giving them. The emergency fund can help you solve that one problem so that you can move on to the next step. Please do get with the Investment Friend so that you can get some assistance about building your emergency fund if you've not yet done that. Okay, so let's get to as we start to wrap up. Let's see what are some of the lessons that we can have moving forward. It's truly been a harrowing experience for Joanne and her family, her boys. It's been an experience that we didn't wish on anybody. However, had I known is always at the last. But for some of us, and hopefully most of us listening into this conversation right now, it's not happening to us. And hopefully it won't happen to us. Why? Because there are certain lessons we can pick up. So we want to summarize the lessons that you can pick up from this story so that you avoid this happening to you. Whether it be about mortgage, whether it be about taking any loan, whether it be about any financial decisions that you are making, buying a car, deciding where you go and work. What are the lessons that we can pick up on? So just quick round of. Adam, do you want to get us started?
Yeah, Elikem, I think for us, one lesson, right, right from this story is, even though we don't know what the pre-existing conditions were, at least for ourselves, we can make sure that we are planning properly before we enter into any of these kinds of situations. And like we have been advocating, whatever it is, whatever decision you are taking, once it's especially for a home ownership, which might be your biggest ever financial decision, you would have to think through it very carefully and be sure that the rule of thumb, make sure that at least you are not spending more than 25% of your monthly income on the ownership of the house. That at least is a good start, so that we, in the event of something happening, you would not find yourself wanting. And also, I think Dennis mentioned the issue of emergency fund. I think in Dave's baby steps, the emergency fund even comes first. If you have no business trying to own a home. That tells you how important it is that when you are moving around, we have that kind of buffer, so you don't end up in a situation where when things go south, then your situation, these things, they just spiral out of control so quickly. And one event just keeps adding on to another and another and another. And the next thing, even though she started off with a mortgage of about 170,000, now she's, after how many years, she's around 190 something thousand, even though she's been making payments, but they've been erratic because of how things went south. You could be in a very terrible state so quickly without even realizing it. So it's very important, that first step, making sure you clean up some of the mess and ensure that you have an emergency fund before you even go into some of these big ticket items.
Good points there. And I know that some people will be listening and saying, hey, then at this rate, can you afford a mortgage? Can you afford a home? If you can't do that now, renting is not bad. It's not a sin. And how do you know what you really can afford or what you can't afford? Don't worry. Get on Instagram. Follow at investment_friend. Follow investment friend. Send a DM. We'll sit down and have a conversation with you to look at your situation to see what you can afford. There's a solution to every problem. There's a way to work with your individual situation. But these principles are general, so get something that will suit you. Yeah. Let's see. Dennis, do you have any other lessons that you picked up from this?
So as we indicated earlier, when we are asking ourselves the questions about what we are buying and how it will help us in the future, we can also ask ourselves what could possibly go wrong, as we mentioned earlier. So in case you have some financial prowess and you can model, when you model maybe the loan or mortgage you are taking and then how the repayments will go in the future, you can also model maybe how bad could things get? Where would things get that I will be in trouble? If you cannot do it, there are always people available to you to speak to, financial institutions you can speak to. You can even speak to friends that you know that can do this for you. And also one thing I picked up was the level of detail that Heliador gave when they were contacted. They had data right from 2006 when they took their loan. And you could see from the discussions that, financial institutions can be cutthroat when it comes to defaulting loans, defaulting payments, and all of that. And they can pull all the receipts when the time comes. They will have all the formal statements ready to answer for them. So I just remember something from Ramit's series, that whenever you speak to your financial institutions, you should make sure to detail the conversation. Have the time you call them, what you talked about, the name of the person you spoke to, detail everything, so that in future, for reference, you can maybe reference it that I called at this time, I spoke to this person and negotiated this. Else, in the future, they might pull a statement that we agreed on this and you don't even remember, because this mortgage has been more than 10 years, pushing 15 years. So there may be some levels of details that she doesn't even remember at all, and they could have contributed to her issue. So those are some of the things that I picked up.
That's a good point about keeping records. In fact, it just dawned on me. Adam said it, you also said it, but in telling the story and giving out the facts, I don't think I didn't emphasize a certain major point. Let me clarify, or let me loud down. This person in 2006 borrowed, or in fact, let's say 2007, because it added the 10,000. So this person, as of 2007, had borrowed 183,000 pounds for a home. 18 years later, from the 2006, or let's just say 17 years later from the 2007, This person still has a balance of 201,000. Just like all the payments that have been made, the few payments that she's been making over these last 17 years. Your question is, where have they gone? The balance on the loan is only going up. It serves as a lesson. Risk is real. Okay, risk is real. You could be planning out a dream, you could plan out, do some math, a detailed model and all that, and you'll make it look like the sun will always shine, things will always do well, you will always have your job, your income will always rise. But guess what? Life happens. Risk is real. There may be a pandemic, you may lose your job. Like, we hear some of these things in the news, but it's not until our own friends who come and tell us, I was laid off from my job. Oh, my boyfriend was laid off from his job. This person was laid off from their job. This person got into a car accident. Now they can't work again. Like, these things actually happen. So we need to appreciate that risk is real. We can't control it. We can't control government decisions. We can't control the economy. We can't control interest rates. What we can control is ourselves. What we can control is how we will manage our budgets in a conservative way. What we can control is living within our means. And not just we're living within just at our means, but making sure that we are saving enough, we are investing enough so that there's money waiting for us if we need it. Making sure that we leave some margin so that if prices go up, you still have some wiggle room in your budget. These are some of the things that we can do to make sure that we are prepared for tough situations. Okay. Also, be careful about debt. Sometimes I'm happy that in Ghana we don't have so big a credit system. Like, credit cards are not so available. You can't just walk into any bank and get any kind of loan so easily. But yeah, you can get personal loans a lot, auto loans in Ghana easily. But it's not as prevalent as it is in Western countries. So I encourage you not to get into that, especially people get into the formal sector and now you have a job. So salary loans. When people see these adverts for salary loans, it's like people think it's a gift or it's an income to them. Oh wow, I'm going to get this money. And then they just want to spend it. No, look at it differently. In fact, there are certain aspects of credit that we don't think about. You want to buy a bag, you want to buy a shoe, you want to buy a phone, they'll say pay it in installments. Sometimes you work out the math and you see that it's like there's no interest on it. So of course you do it. Sometimes you may have the cash, but you want to pay installments. Please pay the cash. Be done with it. Because you never know what will happen. You're supposed to pay it over 6 months. You bought a big TV, you bought a big phone, you bought something, a fridge, something, any appliance. You want to pay it over 6 months, but month 1 you pay, month 2 you pay. But month 3 something happens. Somebody falls sick. There's a funeral. Some expense has come up. You've lost your job. The bonus you're expecting didn't come. Things can happen. Now you are in a tough situation. In fact, other aspects of borrowing that is not in the formal sector, so we don't think. If we think about all the people who have borrowed from us, then they said, Charlie, I'll come back Monday. No. Give me 1 month. If we do that calculation, people will be in serious debt. One day, I hope to do such a system where when somebody borrows from you, you go and record it in there, and then it can be a peer-to-peer credit reporting system. Free business idea for anyone who wants. Peer-to-peer credit reporting system. But anyway, let's just avoid credit. Let's avoid debt as much as possible. And when we do incur debt or credit, let's make sure it's not for consumer purposes. Let's make sure it's for productive purposes. It's going towards owning a home that we can afford, and also keep an emergency fund. But yeah, that's what we have to offer you. It's a sad story to hear about 17 years on, and this person still owes way more than she borrowed. It's affecting her mental health. It's led to her divorce, which effectively limits the family income. She's still staying in the house, and now she's thinking about giving up the home. She's even talking about her teenage boys are not even able to afford full meals. It's a problem. Let's try to prevent this problem for ourselves. And one way we can do that is follow Money Convos here on Twitter or X. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, wherever you listen to podcasts, or YouTube where you watch videos. Our content is there. If you missed last week's conversation about knowing who to listen to for advice, get on wherever you listen to podcasts, search for Money Convos, or get on YouTube, search for Money Convos. We have a website. It's just acting funny this week, but we'll clean it up. But look out for moneyconvos.com. If it's not loading for now, don't worry. I'm trying to fix the technical issue. And then when you get on Instagram, before you all the fancy things confuse you, search for investment friend. That's at investment_friend. All these things that we are saying, you can have somebody hold your hand and guide you through your personal situation to resolve it. And we also have many challenges, savings challenges. Last year, I think there was an emergency fund challenge. A lot of money was saved. So get with it. The whole momentum, it helps. I meant to say this sometime next week, but just as a plus for Money Convos and Investment Friend, you can do these things all on your own. That's nice, but doing it with other people helps keep you in check. There's sometimes when I'm going to make some financial decisions and I think this will affect the financial goal I set for the year, and I've already gone to say it on Money Convos. It's recorded, evidence day. If every quarter we are doing the reviews and I'm not on track, half year I'm not on track, year end I'm not on track, some way. So now man has to just be buying store brand items. It's just get with the group if possible, or at least have one accountability partner, to keep you in check. All right, we'll leave out here. Happy Independence Day to everyone. Hope to catch you here next week when we talk about budgets, give you a refresher course on how to go about budgets. All right, then. Do take care and have a good night. See you next week. Bye.
Thank you for taking the time to listen to our thoughts. I hope you learned a thing or two and start practicing. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Clubhouse, and Facebook. And subscribe to our YouTube and podcast. Do tell a friend about Money Convos so we all become wealthy together. Talk to you soon. Bye.